Hello and welcome to Raising Vibrations. You're with Simon today. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at Mars retrograde in Aries, and this is for 2020. So there is another video that I did create and I did talk about with Mars being in Aries and Mars retrograde as well. And I, communicated some things that I think were and are going to be and have been experiences that we may go through with Mars being in Aries. But in this video, I want to just focus on more of the specific aspects that Mars will be making during its retrograde phase in Aries, and hopefully that gives you something to work with as Mars moves through this retrograde phase and what aspects it's being made. Okay. What else did I want to share just before I jump into this with you guys? Yes, on the most recent video that I did with Venus in Leo, it seemed like it was really well received, especially in the way that I had, described what aspects Venus will be making during the month and what I consider to be important, valuable in terms of your process. So that's what this video is going to be, is the same thing, just kind of going through the zodiac through the 2 months and just looking at specific aspects that I think are very important to pay attention to. Okay. As always, you can find our work, Raising Vibrations, on our website. We have an Instagram, we have a Patreon community page. We've got a services page where we, do human design readings and astrology readings. We have an astrology school. We have a human design course that Jen teaches as well, an immersion. And we have lots of other material that we have on our website. So if you're interested in, exploring more of our content, you will just find all of our information and links below in the description and comments. Okay. And yeah, I invite everybody to make comments and share your experience in the actual comment section. Right? I like to read them and see what everybody else is dealing with during this phase. Okay, so let's jump into this Mars retrograde experience for us. Okay, so as we know, we have today is the 10th of September, as you can see there. And I haven't put all the aspects in, like you can see that the moon is not on here. The nodes are also not on here as well. And it's just kind of making things a bit clearer for us, which I think is really important for at least my eyes, at least. Okay, so we start off with a really, really cool trine that's been taking place with the Earth energy over here. And on my Instagram page, you'll see on Raising Vibrations' Instagram page, you'll see I did an Instagram live where I talked about how to practically use the Earth trine energy. And, this is very much what is in play for us at the moment. The context of Earth energy, you can see there that the sun communicating with Jupiter, the sun about to communicate with Pluto, and then eventually Saturn. These are significant aspects that are taking place in leading up to Mars's actual movement into its retrograde form. So this has a lot to do with slowing down. Earth energy is about slowing down, and it's about being able to be very practical and be very grounded in our approach to things. Now, in this actual chart itself, you've got Neptune sitting here at 19 degrees of Pisces. So you've actually got the Sun-Neptune opposition. And the significance of that Sun-Neptune opposition has to do with being here now. So Ram Dass talks about be here now. What he's referring to is, in a sense, be present with your moment-to-moment reality. Be present with your life and your surroundings. Use your senses to interact with the world. And this is a very important message that the Sun and Jupiter and Uranus are bringing to us, is get really connected with your senses, get really present with where you are in your reality right now. We have a tremendous amount of disassociation with being here on Earth. We are consistently bombarded a tremendous amount with the intensity of reality and the complexity of reality. So, there are large parts of our day that we might daydream, we might split off, we might find ourselves, navigating the world where our senses are not really fully in tune. So this earth energy starts off this Mars retrograde energy with really just coming into the body, just feeling into the body, feeling into your experience, feeling into, what sensations are arising for you when you're interacting with things, and begin to really discern your reality from that place instead of digesting copious amounts of information on the internet and then having your worldview skewed by different perspectives, different opinions, and almost creating a kind of version of reality that's not necessarily very visible and present for you in the moment. And again, this is all unique, by the way. So people living in Australia, for instance, people living in Taiwan, people living in Chile and the States, vastly different, which is why it's an important exercise to do if you're feeling unsettled and ungrounded. Just kind of come back to the body and use grounding techniques or meditations. There's lots of them on the internet. All you need to do is just on Google, just type in, grounding technique, grounding meditation. Just allow yourself to come back to the body. So that's what this Earth Trine is really kind of supporting us with in terms of coming back to our senses. Okay, so I'm going to animate the chart for us, and we'll move it along to the first aspect that I think is significant, which is on the 19th of September. And this is the Sun in Virgo in conjunct Mars, okay? So let's get our little cursor, move it all the way to, there we go, 25, 26. There we go. So the Sun, this is the 19th of September, the Sun at 26 degrees of Virgo in conjunct Mars at 27 degrees of Aries, and this aspect, which is the in conjunct over there, will last for 2 days. In evolutionary astrology, we look at an in conjunct in two ways, either Virgo or Scorpio. In other words, they will play themselves out either in a Scorpio type way or a Virgo type way. And the way that you discern which one it is you look at what is called a phasal relationship. And the phasal relationship will tell you which one of the two is applicable. And in this case, the Sun will always be the center of the solar system, of course. So Mars moves around the zodiac like this. So if Mars was sitting here in Aquarius, then we would have had what is called a Virgo gibbous phase in conjunct, whereas Mars is sitting here in the constellation Taurus. Aries, and so this is what is called a Scorpio in conjunct, or it's not called Scorpio in conjunct, it acts like a Scorpio in conjunct. It's a full phase in conjunct. So full phase in conjunct, and what that means is that this aspect is going to bring up experience of outer circumstances causing you to feel limited. All right. So this is the first aspect in this Mars retrograde alignment that's going to feel like restriction. Okay. So on the 19th, just prepare yourself for feeling restriction, and it will induce an internal conflict within yourself where you need to look at the types of choices and directions that you're making in your life and ask yourself, is this really what I want to be doing? Is this where I want to be investing my energy into? Okay, so that's the first insight that will come along with Mars and the Sun, and it will be in a crisis experience, and it will lead to a feeling of frustration, and then it will go to, okay, what type of choices or actions do I need to adjust here? This is all reflection based because it's a retrograde energy. Okay, so we go on to the 24th of this month, and this is going to be Mars in opposition to Mercury. As you can see here, an exact opposition. And this is significant because at the same time, you'll see the Sun starting to make an opposition to Chiron as well. And of course, Mercury will be squaring Saturn and Pluto. So with this day, the 24th, right, you can see here, this is about tension, where you will experience basically what's going to happen here is that here you are with your perception of reality. Here's another person with their perception of reality. And where there is differentiation, meaning how people internalize and perceive their own reality and how you perceive their own reality, that's going to come into alignment. And what that will do is it will create a necessary need to observe what types of experiences and relation patterns do you want or not in your life? What is meeting your capacity for inclusion or not? Those are the two words. So the 24th of September is about checking out what type of cosmology and intellectual reality you subscribe to and how that fits in or doesn't with people around you. Okay, this is about boundary making. So this energy will be prevalent on the 24th of September. Okay, and then we shoot over to the 28th of September, and here we have Venus in a trine to Mars. I think I talked about this in the other video. Venus sitting over there, 24 degrees, and this will make a trine to Mars. Now, Venus and Mars will be trining each other already by the time Venus hits 20 degrees of Leo, but this is the actual aspect itself. Now, in evolutionary astrology, this trine is what we consider to be a first quarter trine. So this is like a Leo energy, right? So it's very, very Leonic. And this is about taking something and moving it into action. This is about acknowledging something and being very comfortable and confident in your capacity to express and move forward. So while we are moving through the Mercury and Libra opposed Mars energy, where we're going to feel conflict and a bit of friction, this time on the 28th, we'll come into energy that will give us some energy to feel very supported in expressing what our personal needs are, as I talked about earlier. This is about really, really seeing and acknowledging yourself and then being able to communicate that sense of reality in that way. So this is about validation of your inner truth, and it's feeling comfortable with that. We talked about Venus making an inconjunct to Saturn at the time. So this is again where what we are learning here with this aspect is the ability to feel like you can express and feel destiny, feel fatedness, but then ask yourself what it is that, where do I externalize my power in this situation? And you'll see that very clearly with the sun in opposition to Chiron. We're going to be very sensitive to the way that we self-actualize, right? So this is about boundary. This is about self-definition. This is about freedom of expression, okay? All right, so then what we do is we move over to, let me just move my things over there, 29th of October, 29th of September, we get it there, all right. Okay, 29th of September, we have Mars squaring Saturn in Capricorn, and this is a big deal, okay? They got 25 degrees, Mars is retrograde, so therefore Saturn will have this kind of retrograde-esque energy to it, but notice how Saturn is also going to move direct. As you see, that's stationary. So Saturn's moving direct, Mars is in retrograde, and what we will experience is a release of energy, a release of insights. We will have moments of clarity, moments of aha, this is the direction we need to go. This is what I want to commit to. This is what I want to align myself with. So this is a very loaded aspect, evolutionary speaking. And as I said, Saturn's ready to move direct. So here we are, we're going to be asked to kind of align with the disciplined action that supports your desire for what type of reality you want in your life, okay? So the transit before that is the validation of it. The transit before that, as in the days, the transit I've been showing you earlier in this video, they're all leading to this point. And then this is the point where you actually say, okay, that's how I want to define this situation. This is how these are the choices I'm going to make. So the 29th of September, bookmark it. It's a really important day. We will also be very aware of some energy within this over here that will feel like, and this is what I was talking about earlier about this pattern or this feeling of disempowerment. Don't be surprised that you witness a tremendous amount of collective anguish around political issues and experiences, and don't be surprised if you witness a lot of feelings of disempowerment, feelings of helplessness, and then the polarity where it shows the complete desire to want to liberate from all of this type of experience and separate ourselves from collective codependency, basically. This is what we're healing here, is collective codependency. Realizing, this is what somebody wrote in the comments, by the way, and I want to highlight it. So whoever you are that wrote this, thanks very much for adding something really, really cool to the content, which was, I acknowledge that I am not a child, and I acknowledge that you are not my parent. And it's like really, really understanding the difference between seeing ourselves as helpless and that the government needs to come here and kind of give us instruction, versus seeing yourself as a fully grown adult and not needing to be parented, and then being able to, validate and really, really move in a direction that actions change in a healthy way. Okay. So let's go into the 9th of October. Somebody said to me, I think it was, again, in the Venus video, I said Pluto is going to go direct in September. It wasn't. It was going direct, as you can see here, in October, the 4th, 5th. So just a correction there. Pluto will be going direct in October, which is significant because, of course, look what happens next. 9th of October, we have Pluto at 22 degrees direct versus Mars at 22 degrees Aries, and it is retrograde, and this is a square that's taking place. So again, both with Mars square Saturn and Mars square Pluto, we are in what is called a new a crisis in action square, or a crisis through action, depending on how what type of evolutionary astrology you learn. And what this means is that we are learning to take new steps in a new direction. And this has to do with pioneering in a completely new way of being, pioneering a new way of expressing yourself, pioneering a new way of making choices in your life that are more healthy, more orientated towards your responsibility and your sense of adultness, basically. Okay, so this is taking charge of your life. So when Pluto and Mars make a square, this is a very intense transit. Allow your frustrations to be expressed with somebody that you feel safe with. Of course, they're going to come to the surface. They need to come out. Just let them come out. Be prepared to vent that day. Be prepared to get angry, and let them come out. Right? It's a lot of frustration because there's a lot of sort of lingering unconscious blocks or fears that will be rooted in the past personality or ego structures that you have. And so those need to kind of come out. So you're kind of weeding out some of the lost things that really are not healthy for, or sabotage your desire for freedom, in your own life, psychologically and emotionally. Okay. And then we'll move to the 13th of October. And this is where we will have Mars in opposition to the Sun. So this entire time, the Sun has been making an opposition to Chiron, and then as it finishes its opposition to Chiron, it starts to make an opposition to Mars. And the significance between this aspect and, say, the one to Chiron is Chiron will reflect to us where we are being very sensitive to, and this is a really big conversation to have, and I'll have it in the next part of this video. But this is what we're doing here, is we're learning how to establish personal boundaries for ourselves. We're learning how to come into our own autonomy. We're learning how to feel again. We are learning how to assert ourselves in a way that doesn't manipulate other people into getting things done for us in a very subconscious way that we don't know we're doing, because we don't know how else to actually have our needs met. So we kind of use guilt as an example. And again, these are not kind of this is not a judgment in the sense of how bad you and how bad me. It's more along the lines of being very mindful of the type of language that we use, and mindful of the type of way that we communicate to feel safe to other people, by asking them to behave in a specific way so that we don't feel unsafe in ourselves, or where we unable to put boundaries in place when we ask people, hey, by the way, please, would you not do that anymore, as opposed to, I won't let you do that anymore. See the difference in the way that we communicate there. So this is a very much this opposition that's taking place with the Sun in Libra in opposition to this over here is about trying to find the balance between two extremes. And you will see extremes in October. You will see extremes with the Sun moving through Libra. There will be polarities, bar none. So prepare yourself for the fact that there will be extreme amounts of wild opinions from both sides. And what you want to do is you just want to see them as what they are ultimately, and you just walk through the middle. Okay, so that Mars Sun opposition is going to feel like a push and pull between your desire for wanting to do in a new direction and the kind of effects that it has on other people around you. So this is a really good opportunity to just listen. Okay, just being very, very mindful of just listening to the information around you. That would be very supportive to what the environment is telling you about your experience of life. In other words, are you in relationships that are abusive? Are you in relationships that are supporting? Is this the way that you want to move through your life? These are the types of questions that will show up for you. And then you'll just need to make some very big boy, big girl decisions, which is, I can take full responsibility for my life. This is not what I accept. Here's my boundaries. Here are my needs being met or not being met, etc. And it will be emotionally confronting. So this is not like, hey, by the way, this is just a little funny thing. It will be tough if you're doing it the right way, because you're not dealing with people. You're dealing with the way that have been conditioned to be helpless in some situation. We have been conditioned to react and be in social situations in a way that is, rooted in the old paradigm, and it's no longer supporting for us anymore. But you will see a rift exist between people who want to hold on to the past and people who are progressively moving forward. Okay, so that's on the 13th, and then the 19th of August we have just one more over there. Here we get the 19th of August, and this is Mars square Jupiter, 19 degrees retrograde in opposition and squaring Jupiter. Now, I want to let you know that as Mars squares all of these planets here, it will naturally turn them retrograde. So what you're going to experience with Mars retrograde is, even though these planets have moved direct, right? Mars retrograde will it will bring back memories of when they were in retrograde form, so of what we've been dealing with over the last couple of months, to the forefront of your reality. And this will have to do with the way that you define your reality, the way that you can feel your reality, the way that you how you structure your reality. All of these types of things that we've been dealing with since August up until this moment, they will come back to us. And what you've got to do with the Sun in Libra is move to the other side. Choose the freedom choice that's in your life. Free yourself from your restrictions. Free yourself from your experiences emotionally, because physically what you're going to experience is more of this coronavirus lockdown type of stuff. And I'm sure a lot of people in different parts of the world are pro it, because of course the virus is there. And a lot of people will be naturally against it because they feel like they are being influenced by stronger forces outside of themselves, so there are going to be polarities here. So just be mindful of where you lean towards and how that experience is actually pulling you in a direction out of your center. Come back to yourself. With this Mars square to Jupiter, we are looking to separate our truth, separate our sense of philosophy away from the old structure. In other words, we're removing old truths and we're stepping into new truths, and that's going to feel really uncomfortable because it's never been done before. So you need to learn to trust yourself during October, okay? When Mars is squaring Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, you're trying something completely new. It might not be clear to you, but just keep going. Okay? And then finally on the 13th of November, Mars actually goes stations and moves direct. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening for us, and I'll switch to a picture and then I'll talk to you a little bit more about what that means. Okay, so what you're looking at here is something that has always fascinated me about the natural aspect between Mars or Aries and Capricorn and Libra and Cancer, to be honest. And so, like, Simon, what are you going on about? This is a picture of an ocean and the beach and then some land. How could you possibly see Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra here? And it's really, really cool because you do. Well, I do, at least. I see the watery element from the perspective, if we're looking at it from this perspective, I see the watery element as in relation to that direction, That over there is the Libra element. Okay. It's where one reality meets another reality. And how do they interface? Two spaces have different elements, and how do they interface? What type of third reaction do they create? I see the line that gets created over there as a boundary, because you'll notice at some point the water hits the sand, right? And then the sand itself, like if you notice the water, it starts to dry up over there, and then progressively it becomes land. Whereas the other way around over here, water is there. And so there's this crossing point, there's a threshold. It always sits between these two boundaries. And the Aries part to me speaks a lot to the direction. Each land or each mass or element has its own direction, its own self-expression, and it's in constant relation with something else. So there's this relatability aspect of Libra. There's the boundary of Capricorn. There's the two images, the self-images, Cancer. This is the nature, their nature. Like this is sand, right? This is water. The elements are different. We can differentiate these two elements through the way that we identify them. So this is Cancer part, and through that, we actually get to learn about the nature of their own direction and their behavior. Sand it behaves different to water, and when you put the two together, you create this type of experience over there. So it's really fascinating to me, and life always reflects astrology anyway, and that's how you should really use it, is an observation correlation tool. Okay, so what has this got to do with the message? Well, it's got to do with the message in the sense that when we go through life, we're raised by our parents, most of us, okay, and there's a natural dynamic between the child and the parent where our boundaries around what we feel comfortable with and not are not necessarily fully present with us from the ages of, say, 0 up until 7 in an audible way, right? It's only up until 7 do we start to actually become more grounded in our reality. So there's a tremendous amount of openness that we will get conditioned by. There's a tremendous amount of experiences where we don't have the choice. We can't. It's not possible to stand up for ourselves. And so we're at the mercy of the parent. And part of that experience is something that conditions the very deepest unconscious layers of our reality. And when we get into relationships and when we get into adulthood, in terms of going out into the big bad world, we experience ourselves in relation to other people. And there's always a constant interface between the upbringing of one person and the upbringing of another person. And what type of third entity does that create? And one of the things that's very, very clear to me in terms of observing relations is, because we are so complex and so unique and so nuanced in our nature, each relationship brings its own kind of dynamic. And we experience that and we define that as maybe karma, or we define it as whatever, love, however our cosmology kind of gives us the perspective that we use to either align ourselves with a relationship that feels supportive or not. And we're at a time right now, especially with Mars in Aries, and Mars also actually, by the way, Mars on what is called the planetary nodes of Chiron. Just so you know, Mars is actually standing on the planetary nodes of Chiron, and Saturn, Pluto, and Saturn at the moment, Pluto did for a very brief period of time. It actually squared the planetary nodes of Chiron. So the context of bringing that into the place over here is that Chiron itself, in my view, is a messenger for humanity to understand the relationship that we have to life, the relationship that we have to each other, and the relationship we have to our own spirituality. In other words, our internal, unique spiritual sense, not the one that is advocated through a religious kind of we are religious kind of thing. What is your meaning to life for, and what's your cosmology? So the fact that Chiron is activating the south node of Chiron at the moment, Mars activating the south node of Chiron at the moment, and the Sun will be moving through Libra for the majority of Mars's retrograde, we will experience this interplay between the conditioning of when we grew up and how we internalized our parent. In other words, how we internalized the mother and how we internalized the father. How both of those complexes actually show up in relationships, and what how those two or those interactions actually influence and shape and direct the way that the relationship actually manifests itself. But also speaking about the way that we have internalized authority. And for many of us, including myself, we have experienced a kind of learned helplessness where a lot of the things that we feel that we want to achieve in our lives, and this is speaking to a specific group, might you might struggle to be able to fulfill certain things because there are aspects of your own psychological and emotional nature that need maturing. And it's natural that we all are moving through this maturation phase with a lot of the planets in Capricorn and Aries. And we're learning how to break out of that conditioning. We're learning how to unpack the social and emotional landscape of our early life conditioning. And very much so around what were the truths and the philosophies and the values that we needed to align with when we were children, and how they may not actually be relevant for the times that we live in right now. So this picture here speaks to this constant interface between the planetary energies that is reflected by the water interfacing with our personal kind of ego structure, and how we are learning to experience the energy wash away and erode subtly the old conditioning and provide context for us to be able to put something new in place. So water is a renewal energy. So I see the waves as the transits at the moment, just moving through and subtly, not in all cases, especially with kind of Mars square Pluto at the moment, hit up against the old conditioning consistently. And we're learning how to become more resilient in terms of feeling those waves crash up on us and allowing them to wash away everything, all of the conditioning that is no longer relevant for us anymore, and then be able to then absorb the cosmic waves and energy and insights in a new way, so that we're able to transmute the definition of yourself into something that's more real and organic and more connected with water, which is spirit, connected with your own spirituality in that sense. Okay. So that's my interpretation of this over here. I really hope that you found a lot of value in this, peeps. If you did, please, share this video, hit, in a very cliche way, hit that like button. Oh my gosh, it was difficult for me to say. But yeah, like the video, share it with people, write in the comments. And as I said before, in the description and also in the comments, I'll post where you can find our work, myself and Jen. And if you'd like to work with us and engage in our content, you can check out the places that we have it again. Okay. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.